In today's video, we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of that Jawesome team known as the Street Sharks as we take a look at the brand new Wave 1 from Mattel. It's Saturday, time to open some toys. Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and while most of our beloved properties are celebrating their 40th anniversary because we're old and they're old, there's another property that is now celebrating its 30th anniversary, which is the Street Sharks. What I'm holding here is a pretty cool mailer that was sent to me from Mattel. So massive thanks to the folks over at Mattel. Because of this box, we're going to be taking a look at the first wave of the brand new 30th anniversary Street Sharks action figures, which I have actually been pretty excited to check out. You know, with the Street Sharks, one of those things that's really different about these compared to a lot of the things I talk about on this channel is I don't really have any nostalgia for this property. With this being 30 years old, and with me being 42 years old, you know, Street Sharks actually started hitting around the time that I was getting out of toys, so I kind of missed the initial run. I always remember seeing them, always remember thinking they looked cool, never really watched the show, never got into them. And now, as a toy collector, I've always been interested in them, and I usually do like to pick up vintage toys of different properties I've never experienced before, but Street Sharks is one that I never really have dabbled in. So when they announced that new figures were coming out, this felt like a great opportunity to check them out, and that's what we're going to do today. But before we get to the figures, let's see what else is inside this mailer box that Mattel sent me. All right, how do I look? Do I look Jawesome? Pretty rad stuff, right? I mean, I don't know. It's not, the hat thing's not really my look. Can I also point out that this thing is called a dad hat? I mean, that's fine. I'm a dad, I guess, but I don't know. I really think that this says something about about who they know who they're making these things for, right? All right, let's jump in and take a look at the brand new Street Sharks action figures. Where the heck am I going to rock this fanny pack? That's the question. So our 3 Street Sharks figures come in boxes that definitely pay homage to the vintage action figures, essentially coming in shark cages, like the cages that you would dip in the water to get away from sharks, but these sharks are actually in the cage. You get it. You get it. They're very, very fun packages. And just to give you an idea here of the size, you can see that the boxes themselves push upwards towards 7 inches tall. And let me just bring one of them in here so you can get a good idea. It's like a mixture of cardboard, but the cage is actually a plastic cage inside here, which is very cool, kind of adds to the whole play factor of these toys here. You can see at the top it calls out what their action feature is. Like for Ripster here, he's got power punching action. For Slash over here, he's got drilling action. And for Jab, he's got the jackhammer headbutts. So pretty cool stuff. And you can even see down in the bottom, like the 2 sharks say I bite while Slash says I drill. Pretty funny stuff. On the top, you can see that it also kind of dares you to push their levers or their fins so that you can trigger those action features in the box. And in order to do that, you've got a try me window right there on the back. So pressing down that fin will allow you to kind of play around with that chomping action feature right there inside the box. Very fun stuff. Feels like it's straight out of the 90s, which is something that I really appreciate. The back of the boxes here actually features some really cool artwork at the top of the Street Sharks going against those bad guys there. We've also got a cross-sell. We've got a tiny little bio down here on the bottom for each of the characters, and we even have an action feature call-out. It's really cool looking at this and seeing just how similar this is to what they're doing with something like Masters of the Universe Origins, which of course is another homage line, kind of paying homage to a past toy line of Mattel's. I think they really did something pretty cool here. I love the full boxes. Definitely makes these stand out on the shelves. And those plastic cages, like I said, are even going to add to the play factor here. So why don't we go ahead and start ripping these open? We'll get a closer look at the figures. I wanted to show this to you guys real quick too. This is what the cages look like right when you first pull them out of the boxes. Now, there were a ton of little twist ties like tied to these inserts inside the boxes that I had to cut. So you almost do kind of have to tear up those boxes a little bit to get the cages out. But this is what the cages look like inside those boxes. And you can see that we've got like little pieces of plastic here kind of holding them in place. And pulling them out, the bottoms are open on these. And so then we've got even more twist ties to get them off these plastic inserts. Also, I love how Ripster is just sitting down inside his cage. So you do still get this whole plastic cage right here when it's all said and done. There's no bottom to it. But yeah, it's a lot of work to get these guys out of the boxes. All right, we got our Street Sharks totally opened up. Let me bring in the tape measure here. So you can see that the figures are essentially at the 6-inch scale. Now, the fins are obviously going to drive them over that even just a little bit more. But I think they're basically billed as being 6-inch action figures. And honestly, I felt like they were a little bit smaller than I was expecting. And maybe that's just like smaller based on the images. I don't have a lot of experience with the vintage ones since I didn't have any of the vintage ones when I was younger. So this is going to be kind of like my first real experience with some Street Sharks action figures. So we'll go ahead and take a look at these individually here. But while we're talking about the scale, for, I think, my channel specifically, viewers of my channel, I think you might be interested to see Mattel's other retro line standing alongside the Street Sharks, being the Masters of the Universe Origins line. So both of these lines are essentially attempting to do the same thing. This one is over 40 years old now. This one is now 30 years old, but they're supposed to be a lot like the vintage versions, but with some modern articulation, and that's basically what's going on with both figures here. You can see that scale-wise, they do stand similar, but obviously the Street Sharks are supposed to be bigger and more monstrous, and I think that's exactly how they would look next to He-Man and company. So they're close to the same scale, but not exact. But I mean, I don't know if you would even want to display these in the same place, but I thought it was worth bringing that up. And the reason I brought that up too was when these were first kind of shown off, a lot of people reacted to these saying, oh my gosh, Mattel's doing the same thing with Street Sharks they did with Motu. This is basically Street Sharks Origins. And I will say, kinda. One of the things that I was curious about with these is if they were going to have the same pop and play or mix and match feature. And what I mean by that, if you're not familiar, you can remove most of the parts on these Motu figures at all of the joints. And all of those are mix and match with all the figures. So, they kind of have some fun customization built right into the brand. So I think a lot of people were wondering if these were built on a similar system and if they were also going to have that. But it does not appear that's the case. None of these parts are removable. They do not come off. They do not pop apart. So they do not have that same feature. I will say that like the arms and the legs on this guy specifically do have a very similar feel to Motu Origins. And that articulation is even pretty much the same. You can see with the arms there articulating, they can go upwards, they can go in and out, which is very nice. You got swivels at the elbow. You got a standard elbow bend, which is a ratchet joint. So it's very tight. You got swivels at the wrists, and you do have the hinge joints there as well. So already we're seeing a lot more articulation than you typically would on a Street Shark. You can rotate at the waist. They do have a power punch feature, just like vintage Masters of the Universe, which is pretty cool. That little spring twist there in the waist. And then the legs, you can see, we got those like hinge joints. So the legs can go outwards. They can move forwards, backwards. You got the swivel at the knee, as well as a bend at the knee. And then the ankles, you can see they kind of mostly twist, it looks like. I think that there should be like a hinge joint in there. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. So the way the pants are sculpted, though, is what I was getting ready to say, does hinder that movement just a little bit there. You can see he's got these tattered pants down over these really rad cowboy boots, but the hinge joint is there, and the feet don't really feel like they're rocking side to side, but he does stand really well and bounces really good. Now, another thing about these figures is that the bodies are made of a soft, squishy, pliable plastic. Now that's supposed to be like that real feel shark skin, which I believe does come straight from the vintage toys. It feels like sturdy on the figure and it looks nice, but it's very rubbery. I do always worry about the integrity of this type of plastic over time. I don't know how it's going to age. I don't know if we'll eventually get cracking and peeling. I feel like a lot of vintage Street Sharks have held up well, so hopefully these will also. But I do love the little details, like the little cuts, the little scratches there above the mouth. And then with the action feature here, which we saw, he's got the biting feature, and that's by pressing down on the fin. That does allow his mouth to open and close. That's another reason they have that soft, rubbery plastic. Meow, meow, ow, ow. I got to do this, right? Hand shark. Even though this one's not a hand shark puppet. Just had to get that in there because I know there's going to be a lot of Vin Diesel comments in the comment section. And why wouldn't there be? So that's our Ripster. Why don't we go ahead and move on to Jab here? So Jab is very similar to Ripster. We do still have the rubbery body there, so it's soft, it's pliable, and then the arms are articulated. However, we have this extra action feature with the hammer since he's a hammerhead shark. So you can see the mouth is different too. He's got a hammerhead shark style mouth where it's more on the front of his body. But his right arm triggers this hammer up here. Now he doesn't have that waist twisting power punch feature. Instead, by pressing down on his right arm here, he does the headbutt. It extends out that hammer head. So obviously that's going to change up his articulation a little bit. Look, you can still bring the arm outwards. It still has that joint there. You still have all the same joints like the elbow swivel and the bend and the wrist and the hinge there. But this is always going to trigger that headbutting feature just by pressing down on the hand there. Love his camouflage style pants with the tattered knees. Very cool looking. He's got those combat boots on there. And again, his articulation is the same. In fact, his boot swivels there. The hinges on this are kind of the same way. I think it's in there, but it's so tight, and it's because the back of these boots are bumping up into the backs of the legs there. Now, he still stands fine. They do seem to balance pretty well for the most part. They've got these big upper bodies and these shorter, kind of stubbier legs, so sometimes you do have balance issues like that. You almost need to find just the right way to stand him up to keep him standing there. There we go. Lastly, we've got Slash. Honestly, I think this guy's the coolest looking of the bunch. This is one of our bad guys. So he did have this drill that you had to assemble after opening him up out of the box. And let me just show you real quick. This is a part that can just pop out of the nose there. Urgh! Stand up, Ripster. All right, so you got that peg there. So this is what he looked like in the box. So you'll want to pull this out, and you want to just attach it on there. And this is because he's got this drill feature. So you can see he's got a lever on his back, and that gets the nose spinning, which is pretty cool. He has got a hard plastic body, so he does not have the soft, squishy body that the sharks do. And all of his articulation is the same as what we saw with the other guys. I do love the paint deco on this guy. The colors are amazing. I love this metallic purple on the top and the way it almost kind of fades into that turquoise. He's got these big monster hands. This guy, I always like the bad guys in lines, but this is a very, very cool looking action figure. I love him quite a bit. And, we got to demo the features, right? So, oh yeah, that's right. We got to use the hand here. Boom! Headbutt. Boom! Headbutt. Boom! Headbutt. There we go. We got it. And then, of course, you got the power punch there as well. Ooh, yeah, that worked nice. Good job, Ripster. You took him out. A lot of the times in my videos, one of the things I always love to do is a comparison time to show the new toys next to the vintage toys. And as I mentioned, I don't have the vintage ones, which is a shame. And I apologize if any of you were hoping to see that. I was a little surprised by the scale on these new ones because they felt smaller than what I thought Street Sharks were. But just recently I was at Joe Fest, and these new Street Sharks were out, and actually some people brought them by my table so I can take a look at them. And then I found some vintage ones on the show floor and was kind of surprised to see that they are, I believe, the same scale. But I don't have them with me to compare, but I don't know. Here's a clip from one of my recent toy hunt trips. This is the vintage. Have you seen the new Street Sharks yet? Have you seen them in person? Somebody brought them today and let me play with them because they're starting to hit stores already, the new Street Sharks. They're pretty good. The thing that's different though, I guess the vintage ones are kind of made of a rubbery
So it's a lot like that. The scale's even the same, but they're more articulated. So they've got like knee joints and elbow joints and wrist swivels and stuff like that, but they still have action features. So I think it even works the same. Like you do this with the mouth on the fin, and then like the head, the shark head like butts out too. The new one does the exact same thing. So they're almost identical, but they've added new articulation. They're kind of cool.
So there you go, a look at the brand new first wave of the 30th anniversary Street Sharks from Mattel. Once again, I got to give a very special thanks to Mattel for sending these over with this amazing swag. How cool do I look? I know you're gonna say you don't really have to, just when you're typing, you're just, these are fun figures. I do really like them. And, even as somebody who doesn't have a lot of nostalgia for this line, I always love seeing this sort of thing. Obviously, these throwbacks I'm into them with the things that I grew up with, obviously. So I'm happy that these exist specifically for the people that grew up with Street Sharks and are happy to finally see them get some love again. But they are really nice figures, and I'm excited to see where this line goes and how far it goes. The cool thing is that these are retail figures, so they should be hitting retail stores, they should be hitting places like Walmart, and as of the recording of this video, they're currently in stock and able to be ordered from BigBadToyStore.com, so I'll link to that in the video description as well. Thank you guys so very much for watching this video. I appreciate having you guys here. Make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because we're dropping new toy videos just like this one every single Saturday, and I'd love to have you guys join me. Thank you guys so very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And until next time, my friends. Not sure if I'm going to wear this again after this video, but we'll see. Probably not that hat. I am not a hat guy. Doesn't this look weird? I look weird in a hat.